Welcome to the Last Transmission podcast, the show that exposes the signals beneath the noise. Today, we're diving into a question most are afraid to ask. Could the explosive rise of AI, especially lifelike humanoid robots, actually be the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy about the image of the beast in Revelation 13? From biblical symbolism to cutting-edge robotics, from the mark of the beast to the debate over machine consciousness, this episode unpacks what it means to worship, obey, and submit in a world where artificial intelligence is on the throne. Stay tuned. Some answers may be unsettling.
Welcome to the Last Transmission podcast. You've joined us for a really fascinating, maybe a little unsettling exploration today.
I think unsettling might be the right word for some of this.
Yeah, we're diving straight into, the intersection of artificial intelligence and biblical prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically that really potent image described in the book of Revelation.
The one that speaks and demands worship.
Exactly, that one.
You know, Revelation 13 paints such a vivid picture, doesn't it? An image of a beast, given breath, somehow capable of speech.
Right, and commanding allegiance if you don't comply.
It costs you everything. It's a prophecy that's echoed for centuries, prompting, countless interpretations.
Absolutely. And, as we look around today at the speed of AI development, especially these humanoid robots, a question pops up. It feels like science fiction almost.
But rooted in something ancient.
Totally. Could these AI-powered humanoids be what Revelation was actually pointing towards? It sounds maybe far-fetched at first glance.
But it's worth exploring, definitely.
Right. So let's really unpack this. I think to grasp the potential connection, we first need to look closely at what Revelation actually says about these beasts and this image. What's the breakdown there?
Okay, so the book of Revelation, it gives us this pretty complex symbolic landscape. You've basically got three key players, often called beasts.
Three of them.
Yeah. First, there's the dragon. The text is explicit. It identifies the dragon as Satan.
Okay, clear enough.
Then you have the beast that comes out of the sea. Now, he's widely understood to represent the Antichrist figure.
The Antichrist, got it.
And third, there's a beast that rises from the earth. This one's often interpreted as the false prophet.
Dragon, sea beast, earth beast, Satan, Antichrist, false prophet.
Roughly. That's the common understanding, yes. Keeping those distinct is helpful when we talk about the image itself.
All right, so let's zero in on that beast of the sea for a sec. What are its defining characteristics in Revelation 13? As listeners of the Last Transmission podcast know, the details really matter in prophecy.
They absolutely do. So the beast of the sea, as the name suggests, it rises from the sea. And it's granted significant power, significant authority directly from the dragon.
Of Satan.
From Satan, yes. This beast actively persecutes those who remain faithful, God's people. And here's a critical piece. It sets up a system.
The mark.
Exactly. A system where having its name or its number on your forehead or your right hand becomes essential for commerce, for buying and selling.
Can't function in society without it.
Pretty much. It's also described as speaking blasphemies against God and ruling, exercising dominion for a specific period, 42 months.
3.5 years, roughly.
Correct. And interestingly, its physical description is a composite. It looks like a leopard, a lion, and a bear.
Those sound familiar. Daniel.
Precisely. Animals that also appear as symbols for kingdoms in the book of Daniel. And another major point, it suffers what looks like a fatal head wound.
But recovers.
But recovers miraculously. And this event, it astounds the world. It leads many people to actually worship this beast.
Wow. Okay, that's, a truly formidable, terrifying entity described there. So where does the other beast, the beast of the earth, fit in? And what's its link to the sea beast? And importantly for us here on the Last Transmission podcast, this image.
Right, the earth beast. Different origin comes from the land, not the sea. Its appearance is kind of deceptive. It has two horns like a lamb.
Like a lamb?
Gentle, usually.
Usually, but it speaks like a dragon. So that reveals its true sinister nature, its main job, to promote the authority of the first beast, the sea beast.
Ah, okay. It's like the PR agent from hell.
Ah, you could sort of put it that way. It also performs big signs, apparently. Things like making fire come down from heaven.
To impress people, mislead them.
Exactly. And here's the crucial part for our discussion today. This earth beast commands people, the inhabitants of the earth, to create an image. Specifically, an image to the sea beast.
The one who had the wound and lived.
That's the one. And even more, this earth beast is apparently given power to give breath to this image.
Breath, like life. That's how it's described. Enabling it to speak. and to demand worship.
And if you refuse.
Refusal means death. And, tying it back, this earth beast is the one who causes everyone to get the mark of the beast on their hand or forehead.
Linking right back to that economic control of the sea beast.
Directly. They work together.
Okay, wow. So these two beasts working in tandem, and the earth beast animates this image, gives it a voice, makes it enforce worship. You know, for us here at the Last Transmission podcast, this is where that connection to advanced AI starts to feel, well, less like just allegory.
It resonates with modern technology in a way it maybe hasn't before.
But hang on, before we get carried away, it's crucial to remember, these passages, they've been interpreted so many ways throughout history.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't the first time people have tried to map prophecy onto current events, not by a long shot.
Right, so what are some of those main interpretive traditions?
Well, there are several prominent schools. Preterism, for example. That view basically says these events largely happened already, back in the 1st century CE.
So Rome.
Pretty much. In that framework, the beasts often represent the Roman Empire. Some even point to specific emperors, like Nero maybe, as the sea beast.
And the earth beast.
It could be the imperial cult, you know, the emperor worship system, or maybe a specific Roman administrator. And the image in that view could simply be the emperor's image on coins.
Which you needed for trade, for commerce.
Exactly. So it fits that context.
Makes sense historically. What other views are out there?
Then there's historicism. Historicists tend to see the beasts as representing a succession of historical powers, empires, institutions that have opposed God and his people down through the centuries.
So not just one past event, but a pattern.
A pattern, yeah. Idealism, on the other hand, takes a more symbolic route. It sees the beasts less as concrete entities, more as symbols of evil forces or social injustice or oppressive political systems, things that pop up again and again.
On the image there.
Could symbolize something like ideological conformity, pressure to think and act the same way.
And then there's the view that often sparks the kind of discussions we have on the Last Transmission podcast, the one looking towards our present or future.
That would be futurism, yeah. This perspective holds that these prophecies are yet to be fulfilled, literally in the end times, right before Christ returns.
So for futurists, the sea beast is
often seen as maybe a revived Roman Empire or some kind of similar future global power led by the Antichrist.
Well, the earth beast.
Could be the head of a worldwide apostate church or some powerful false religious system that supports the Antichrist. And in this framework, the image is often expected to be a literal thing.
A literal construct demanding worship.
That's the common futurist expectation, yeah.
It's really fascinating how the interpretive lens just completely changes the timeline and the nature of what people expect. You mentioned Daniel earlier. How does that connect again?
Well, right, it's significant. Because Daniel also has visions of beasts, and in Daniel they're explicitly identified as kingdoms. So that's led some interpreters to see Revelation's beast of the sea not just as one specific empire, but maybe as a composite, like representing all earthly kingdoms throughout history that stand against God.
The sort of culmination of worldly power opposing the divine.
Something like that. And of course, we can't forget the number, 666.
Yes, the infamous number.
Specifically linked to the beast, though honestly what it means, its significance, that's still debated endlessly.
Okay. So with that crucial biblical background and the variety of ways people have understood it, let's pivot. Let's look at the other key piece for us today for listeners of the Last Transmission podcast. The incredible rise of AI and humanoid robotics. I mean, the speed of this stuff is just breathtaking.
It really is. If you trace robotics history, you start with simple mechanical arms, things doing repetitive tasks in factories.
Automation, basically.
Pretty much. Industrial robots, programmed automation, that was big in the mid-20th century. But the real game changer, that was machine intelligence. Ideas from thinkers like Alan Turing.
The father of computer science.
Right. His foundational work paved the way for machines that could actually learn, analyze information, respond to their environment in, well, increasingly complex ways.
And it feels like almost overnight, we went from those clunky early machines to robots that are becoming startlingly lifelike.
It does feel fast, doesn't it? You had early milestones like Honda's Osimo. I remember seeing videos of that, walking, basic interaction.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing back then.
And AI systems like IBM's Watson, understanding natural language, beating humans at Jeopardy, those were big steps. But today, we're seeing humanoid robots showing up in more and more places.
Like where?
Healthcare is a big one. Rehabilitation, elder care. You've got robots like Pepper or GR1 designed for companionship. They can even supposedly react to human emotional cues.
Companionship from a robot. Wild.
We're also seeing them in education, logistics, and their ability to simulate emotions, through really nuanced facial expressions. That's getting more and more advanced.
It is pretty striking sometimes how human-like their interactions can seem. But, like any really powerful tech, there have got to be some serious things to think about.
Oh, absolutely. As these robots get more integrated, what does that mean for jobs? Tasks humans used to do, that's a huge question.
Labor displacement.
Right. And also just public trust, acceptance. Not everyone's comfortable interacting with a machine that looks and acts so human. Building that trust, it's going to require a lot of open discussion about what they can and can't do.
Which brings us right back around to the central question we're wrestling with today on the Last Transmission podcast. Could this rapidly evolving AI, especially when you put it in a humanoid robot body, could that be interpreted as the image of the beast, the one that speaks and causes worship?
This is where it gets really thought-provoking, even if it's still speculative. The growing intelligence, the sheer influence of AI, it definitely makes you consider if it could be seen as a powerful image in some sense.
How so? What are the parallels?
Well, think about advanced AI in a human-like form. Could that be seen as having breath, lifelike qualities?
Yeah.
Its ability to process insane amounts of data, understand and generate human language now with incredible fluency.
Like ChatGPT in those systems.
Exactly. Their ability to interact in increasingly complex ways. Some might see that as almost miraculous, or at least incredibly authoritative.
Authoritative. And that ties into the worship aspect, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How might AI fit that piece as we think about it here on the Last Transmission podcast?
It's a key part, and worship here. Maybe it's not traditional religious bowing down. Maybe it's more like a complete, unquestioning submission to the authority or the ideology promoted by an advanced AI system.
Like trusting it, absolutely.
Right. We're already seeing concerns, about AI being used to push specific narratives or even potentially rewrite religious texts or history. Imagine an AI so woven into society, providing everything, information, services.
You'd rely on it completely.
You might start placing absolute faith in what it says. Giving it a kind of ultimate authority in your life, that's a form of submission, maybe even worship in a broader sense.
That is, sobering thought. What about the Mark connection? Any potential AI angle there?
Well, again, it's speculative right now, but you look at AI's capabilities in surveillance, data analysis, it does raise concerns, privacy, autonomy.
Big concerns.
So it's not maybe totally inconceivable that future AI-driven systems could require some kind of digital ID or digital credentials to participate in society, buying, selling, accessing services.
Which some could definitely see as a parallel to the Mark.
Some might make that connection, yes.
We even noticed online in the same discussions, people are starting to voice this idea that AI could be the image of the beast.
Oh, yeah. What are they pointing to?
Mostly its growing influence, like you said, and its ability to do things that feel like, technological miracles, things totally unimaginable just a generation ago. It feels like the idea is gaining some ground.
And that reflects this feeling, I think, that these tech leaps are so huge, so unprecedented. Maybe they do align with what ancient prophecies hinted at. You even see tech like advanced holographic displays.
Hologram.
Yeah, like the MAT, multimodal acoustic trap display, creates images you can apparently see, hear, even feel, that provides a kind of modern analogy for a really compelling, persuasive image that could command attention, maybe allegiance.
Wow. But as we also found in those discussions, there are strong counterarguments too, right? Not everyone's jumping to that conclusion.
Oh, definitely not. Lots of people stick firmly to the historical views, like preterism, Nero, Rome, it's all in the past.
Or interpret the Mark differently.
Right, as maybe a spiritual rejection of faith, not a literal chip or anything. And there's just, healthy skepticism. Is current AI really fulfilling such a huge, dramatic prophecy?
It's a big leap.
It is. Plus, the whole idea of true AI, general artificial intelligence, we don't even fully know what that looks like or if it's possible. That uncertainty also kind of dampens the more immediate apocalyptic readings.
Which actually leads us into another really deep, complex layer here, crucial for us at the Last Transmission podcast. The whole question of consciousness in AI. I mean, for an image to truly speak and demand worship meaningfully, wouldn't it need some level of actual consciousness?
That's Yeah, that's probably the absolute pivotal question, isn't it? Consciousness itself is just notoriously hard to pin down. But generally, we mean things like self-awareness, perception, having intentions, subjective experience, qualia.
That feeling of what it's like to be something.
Exactly. And the big unknown is whether AI, no matter how good it gets at acting human, can ever genuinely achieve that higher order consciousness, or is it always just a very sophisticated simulation?
The hard problem of consciousness, they call it.
That's it. And you've got strong arguments on both sides.
Like Searle.
Right, the philosopher John Searle's famous Chinese room argument. It basically casts major doubt on AI truly understanding anything, even if it passes the Turing test, fools us into thinking it's conscious.
Explain that again quickly. The Chinese room?
Sure. He imagines a person who doesn't speak Chinese, locked in a room. They get Chinese characters slipped under the door, and they have a huge detailed rule book in English telling them exactly which Chinese characters to send back out in response.
Okay.
So to someone outside the room, it looks like the person inside understands Chinese perfectly, but do they? No, they're just manipulating symbols according to rules.
Syntax, not semantics.
Exactly. Searle argues that's all computers do. They follow algorithms, manipulate symbols, but there's no real understanding, no meaning, no consciousness behind it.
So even if an AI talks like us, acts like us, it might just be an incredibly complex mimic.
That's the core of his argument. But then you have others, often in AI development itself, who argue differently. They suggest maybe consciousness can be engineered.
Yeah.
The idea is if we can figure out the functional processes in the brain that give rise to consciousness and then replicate those functions, maybe in silicon. Theoretically, you could create conscious AI. It's more of an engineering perspective.
So it really boils down to this fundamental disagreement. Is consciousness about the stuff it's made of, biological neurons? Or is it about the process, the function, which could maybe run on different hardware?
That's a good way to put it. And then you have philosophers like Wittgenstein who kind of sidestep that.
How so?
He talks about our life perspective. Basically, we tend to treat things as conscious based on how they act. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck.
We treat it like a duck.
Right. So if a robot behaves indistinguishably from a conscious being, at what point do we or should we deny it some form of consciousness, even if its internal workings are different from ours?
So maybe consciousness isn't just on-off, but more of a spectrum.
That's one possibility this perspective raises. And then you have the practical problem. Even if AI did become conscious, how would we even know? How could we test for it reliably?
Susan Schneider's work touches on this, right?
Yes, she's explored this challenge. Propose thought experiments like the chip test. Imagine replacing parts of your brain with functionally identical microchips. At what point, if any, would your consciousness fade or change? It highlights how tricky it is to determine if consciousness can exist in non-biological forms.
Man, it really makes you question what the essential criteria even are for something being alive or conscious.
Yeah.
If AI did cross that line, whatever it is, the implications are just huge.
It's enormous. Ethically, it's a minefield. If AI becomes conscious, do we owe it moral consideration? Do we need to talk about AI rights to prevent exploitation?
Wow. AI rights.
And the whole issue of value alignment becomes even more critical. How do you ensure that a potentially conscious, superintelligent AI shares, or at least respects, human values? That's a monumental challenge we'd need to face head on.
It is just so much to think about. So as we wrap up our discussion today on the Last Transmission podcast, let's circle back. That initial question, could AI-powered humanoid robots actually be the fulfillment of that image of the beast, prophecy from Revelation?
Well, as we've definitely seen today, it's incredibly complex and highly debated. You have so many ways to interpret the prophecy itself. And AI tech is just moving at this breakneck, often unpredictable speed.
But the parallels are there.
The potential parallels are hard to ignore, aren't they? The biblical description, an image that can communicate, influence behavior, maybe even control aspects of life.
It does resonate with AI's emerging capabilities and definitely with the concerns surrounding it.
It really does.
It certainly gives you pause, doesn't it? Thinking how these ancient texts, written millennia ago, seem to touch on the very kinds of issues we're grappling with right now, with this powerful, transformative technology.
It's quite striking.
So while we absolutely need to be cautious, avoid jumping to definitive conclusions, the potential connections we've explored here on the Last Transmission podcast, they are undeniably thought-provoking.
Couldn't agree more. And really, as AI gets woven deeper and deeper into our daily lives, it forces every single one of us to think about these big questions. Questions about authority, about allegiance.
About what worship even means.
Exactly. What does worship, what does allegiance truly mean in the landscape of the 21st century? It's a conversation, like you said, that's really just getting started. And it demands our attention, our critical thinking.
A powerful note to end on. Thank you for joining us for this exploration today on the Last Transmission podcast. It's a journey of discovery that I've no doubt will continue to follow as technology unfolds and as our understanding of these ancient texts keeps evolving.
You've been listening to the Last Transmission podcast. The parallels between ancient prophecy and today's technology are more real and more urgent than ever. Whether AI becomes the image that speaks or just a shadow of what's to come, one thing is clear: every generation must choose who or what it will trust, obey, and ultimately worship. Subscribe, share, and stay awake. The story is only beginning.